All right, folks, this is the end of the day review for the live trading room. I'm going to go through how the adaptive entry system performed. This has been an interesting week. It's been a little bit more sluggish. Monday was a really strong day. We've had some sluggish movements, but that, in my opinion, is the test of any type of trading system that you're using. So, there's good news, bad news today, and the bad news is really not really bad news, not really that bad. So I want to share with you what we've seen going on today, and we're going to look at the numbers, and then we're going to plug them into our trading plan. All right, so first of all, for the benefit of those of you who like to kind of review the detail, there's the 7 a.m. forward. There was a question a little while ago about, doesn't it change the the tracking and the tone of the tracking and the results when you start locking in 5 points? So I want to be really clear about that. We've always talked about locking in 5 points on momentum trades, and we've always talked about when we're down to the last end of the day time frame, if you get 5 points on a trend bias trade or consensus trade, you might want to lock that in. That's been pretty consistent with the way we have been going through the trades and the entries on consensus trades and trend bias trades. So there was a trade today at 320. If you're still taking trades that late in the day, which a lot of people will not trade that late in the day, then it's wise not to let that trade come all the way back against you and take you out for 20 points of loss that late in the day. I just don't think that that's wise. So there was a 1520 trade that came on 320 Eastern time. It gave us 5 points of profit, and actually I think it moved to about 7 points of profit. You want to lock in 5. We're not looking for 5 on every one of our trades. If we did, that would change the entire scope of the way we've tracked, but we've been very consistent towards the end of the day in locking in those 5. I consider it just to be an extra bonus trade, bonus profit. And in this case, if you had not locked in 5, it actually came back and would have taken you out for about 11.5 points of loss. So that's just in response to a question that was brought up in the live trading room about how we track and how we look at overall performance. So today I'm going to look at the daily summary here. There are 2 primary categories that we are tracking. There's a variety of categories that we're keeping track of that we are reviewing. When I say categories, they're time frames starting some as early as 3 a.m. Eastern time, some start at 7 a.m., some start at 9:30 a.m., some go to noon, some go to 4 o'clock. So the 2 primary categories that we've been tracking are 9:30 to noon, taking all of the signals, and by all of the signals that means trend bias trades, consensus trades, and momentum trades. So taking all of the signals and trading just 9:30 to noon. Today we did 15 trades in that time frame, and we ended up netting 35 points. Now this is 35 points on the NASDAQ 100 futures. 35 points on the NASDAQ 100 futures is $700 a contract because it's $20 a point. And then in our other category, we actually today have our first losing day. That's assuming that we don't have a trend bias trade that comes on in the last few minutes here, but I think we call it a day. We have our first losing trade in almost 2 months now, going on 2 months of trading from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. trend bias signals only for 10 points of profit, and using a 10-point profit target or a 20-point protective stop. But our loss was only 3.25 points. So I don't consider that to be really bad news, and you're going to see why when we jump over here and look at our overall averages. So I'm going to start with our trend bias only trades. Okay, I'm going to go over to the NQ. And so we are negative 3.25 times $20 a point. We're negative $65, but we're trading 3 contracts. So multiply that times 3. So essentially today we lost $195. we did 12 trades times 3 contracts. So there were 36 contracts that were traded. So that puts in the cost of doing business on our transactions. So it nets a loss of 5.65 points, 5.65 points. Now this is really important, and this is why I'm saying I don't think that's a big deal at all. Because this tool right here, this is our trading plan. If you've never seen this before, this is a tool that we created for our trading community to allow any trader to be able to project what their income would be based on a few very simple components. So one of those components is, what are we forecasting forward? What are we forecasting for the 12-month, the rest of the 12-month period that we have not already completed actual performance? Everything highlighted in blue are actual performance numbers. These are actual profits. Those actual profits are averaging right now 27.14 points a day, or just over $924 a day. That's the average that we are actually experiencing by looking at the by looking at the trend bias only trades from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, we want to have a realistic forecast going forward based on what our actual is. We've been projecting 29 points. Based on our performance today, inserting that, I'm actually going to lower this to 27 points. So that's a realistic average, in my opinion. But even more realistic and making this a more conservative estimate is, this is our first losing day in almost 4 weeks, okay? We have one more day that will complete 4 weeks. And yet the tool here, the trading plan tool, allocates a losing day, 1 day a week throughout the course of the year. We are realistic about our trading. We know there are going to be losses, there are going to be losing trades, and there are going to be losing days. We've allocated 15 points or $300 per contract of loss 1 day a week for the entire 12-month period. We have yet to experience that. In the first 4 weeks, almost 4 weeks, we only have one losing day, and that's a loss of $339 on 3 contracts. So we're well under our planned losses for the course of a year. So I'm going to leave that alone because I think that there are going to be other losing days, and we want our future forecast to be realistic. So based on actual of just over 27 points a day, based on a forecast of 27 points for the remainder of the 12 months, and based on 15 points of loss 1 day a week, and then limiting our contracts, maximum number of contracts to just 3, our income currently for 12 months is projected to be just over $292,000. Now, depending on how confident you are with your trading, dependent on how consistent you are in terms of managing your future forecast, I think we're right in line with what's shown us to be realistic. You can also play around with the number of contracts. If your future forecast previously had been showing a forecast of an income of, say, $320,000, $330,000, but now because we've layered in our first losing actual trade, it's dropped down to below 300,000. If you're looking for 300,000 of income, you can play around with the number of contracts you trade. So if I put 4 contracts in, it's going to take my future income forecast up to $381,000. And how do you know whether 4 contracts is realistic? Depends on where you started in terms of your account value, how your account value has grown, and this right here. This is saying that we're allocating 10% of our account balance towards the contracts that we're trading. We need $500 per contract in our account to trade at Infinity Futures. That's where we're trading futures. So if I have $10,000 in my account, I can trade 2 contracts because 10% of 10,000 is 1,000. Each contract requires $500 of margin. I can trade 2 contracts. So the combination of this percentage along with the maximum number of contracts basically says, as you forecast out your potential income for a 12-month period, you're going to limit your risk and exposure to either no more than 10% of the balance of your account, or an arbitrary number that you decide you want to max out the number of contracts you trade, whichever is smaller. So if you were going to trade 4 contracts, but you have not grown the value of your account enough to trade 4 contracts based on 10% of your account balance, then you will trade only maybe 2 contracts or 3 contracts. The trading tool here is going to help you know when to grow the number of contracts. For our purposes, being conservative here and just kind of demonstrating for you what is possible, I'm going to leave our future forecast at 3 contracts, and that shows an income, potential income over the course of a 12-month period of $292,000. Now, I'm going to quickly grab the other category here, which is the 9:30 to noon. 9:30 to noon. We did 35 points. So 35 points, 9:30 to noon. It was a good morning. It was a more challenging afternoon today. 35 points times $20 a point on the NASDAQ 100 is $700, and there were 15 trades. So we're going to go over to our personal trading plan. We're going to go to the what's labeled LTR all. It means that that is the category where we are taking all of the signals, trend bias, consensus, and momentum off the adaptive entry system. And we're trading 3 contracts. It's $700 of profit per contract. So we had $2,100 of profit. We traded 15 trades, took 15 trades, and 15 times 3 contracts is 45 contracts. All right, so that shows us that our net today was $1,920 when we take into account the cost of doing business. Our average right now is 28.85 points actual. That's what our actual average has been. That also factors in 10 points planned for losing day. We've actually had 1, 2, 3 losing days in the first almost 4 weeks. So we're definitely a little more favorable to our plan. That's a conservative number then. And we are planning our winning days at 28 points, even though our overall average, including losing days, is averaging 28.85. So I consider this to be a conservative projection of what your income could be. And again, we're maxing out at 3 contracts here to show a conservative approach, and that projects an income of $320,000 over a 12-month period. That's a combination of what has actually been realized, as well as then a future forecast based on realistic numbers and projections. All right, so if we take a look at the averages, So we did 35 points today. The average across all of the time that we've been tracking this here in the live trading room is actually just under 35 points. So we were right at the average today. That's beautiful. That was great performance today. There are going to be some days that are going to be smaller, some days are going to be greater, but we're trading today, we are trading right at about the average. And we have about a 78.4% win rate on all of those trades, 9:30 to noon. Now, today we took, as I said, we took our first loss today. Our lowest performing day was today in the trend bias only category, where we're looking for just 10 points of profit. We lost 3.25 points. That's really not a big deal at all. We have several other categories that have had bigger losing days, but overall they have bigger averages. But you got to kind of slog your way through the bigger losing days in order to get to those averages. And frankly, I don't think today is a big deal, but you know, when you're living through the day, one trade at a time, and you lost this one, you lost on that one, it doesn't feel very good. And so using the trading plan tool, come back to the trading plan here, using this trading plan, if you don't feel very good about your performance today, just plug it into your trading plan and see where that projects your 12-month income. And I can almost guarantee you that you're going to feel a lot better, because if you have one bad day or a couple of bad days, or you feel like you made some mistakes and it didn't quite work out for you today, plug it into your trading plan, because it is one small data point in the context of 12 months of trading. And then you come back the next day and you just regroup and you start over again. So pretty happy with the performance overall. Yes, we have our first losing day in this trend um, bias only category, but it's not really a significant loss. And even so, the majority of our days, all of our days averaged together are giving us 40 points a day. So we're pretty happy with both of those. So again, thank you for being here. Appreciate you following along, and just appreciate you being in our live trading room. Those of you who are, if you're interested in the adaptive entry system, which is our tool for entering trades, knowing what the most immediate bias is of movement in the underlying index or stock that we might be looking at, please check us out at optionsmoneymaker.com/TBP.